Welcome to Empowered to Grow, the podcast. I am your host, Hanan and Basha, the business doctor. Following our conversations with empowered women who woke up one day and consciously claimed, I am more than enough, I am worthy, I am empowered to grow. And along their empowering journey towards realizing their own potential and their quest for growth, they became a beacon of hope and guidance for others. May you also find your inner power to grow. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to our Unchartered discussion episode of Empowered to Grow podcast. This is your host, Hanan and Basha, and I'm still with the lovely Anca Stefania. Please, Anca, say your last name. Can you say your name in full? Because I need to respect that and give you that space.
Yeah, thank you, Hanan. So my name is Anca Stefania Iorgulescu.
Thank you. So I told Anca, I'm sorry, I will not try to butcher her last name. So I needed to give her that space. Anca is a pleasure, wealth, and sexuality coach. And I was asking her between the episodes saying, let's delve a bit deeper into this topic. Usually that topic is a taboo for a lot of people. I know within the Middle Eastern culture, we don't talk about it. It's kind of the things that you might know about, but you don't talk about in detail, just gets very uncomfortable and stuff. But I wanted to understand more from your work, and you've done your studies, you do the work with your clients and stuff. What kind of issues or how do you approach this topic?
So it depends a lot on what we are working. I have a background in movement. So I love working, for example, with women who are feeling uncomfortable in their own skin. And I think that this is, unfortunately, and I feel deeply into this pain, it's such a common thing for many women to feel that they are not attractive enough. And then that, of course, leans into their intimate relationship, in the way that they are with their partners, and also in the way that the dynamic with their partners is built. Because of course, when you don't feel very at ease in your own body, you start generating insecurities, and if you do not have the tools to actually take responsibilities and hold yourself when these insecurities pop up, you will reach for the other person to hold you. And sometimes this reaching is not coming from a conscious space. It's coming from a space of jealousy, from a space where you need them to validate something for you so that you feel better and that the quantity of pain that you are experiencing reduces.
Wow. And I think this ties up to what you were talking about in the first episode when you were talking about embracing your authenticity. And it's kind of uncovering the layers to see who you really are. And I know that personally, I had to go on a journey to love myself, love all of me. That includes, interior and exterior, and understand, for example, that my weight does not define my worth, that, that my body's job is to protect me and to take care of me. And hence everything else that's been happening internally and externally is a reflection of that. And that in itself, as well, as I believe is something that we're not usually conditioned for. We're conditioned to, go for the skinny body, go look at who's doing what. Now as well, with a lot of the advancements in the beauty industry, now I've seen a lot of even the younger generation, I'm talking like teens or just early 20s, they're going for the Botox and the fillers and the and the lashes and the nails, and I can see how that impacts, as you said, not only their authenticity, but their sense of themselves and how they could connect with partners or anyone else for that matter.
Mm-hmm. So I think it's really important to name something out loud, which is there is no shame from where I'm standing for the fact that a lot of women go for all sorts of adjustments. I really want to say that there is a system that benefits a lot from women not feeling good about themselves. So the primary target for aesthetical surgeries are women. the cosmetics industry, pharma industry lives, I don't know the percentages, but the cosmetic industry, probably 99.9% of women's insecurities. So I would really like to speak to this, and I would really like to tell women that there is nothing wrong with you. You were brought to believe that there is something wrong with you, so that people can make money out of our insecurities. A woman and an individual, it's not only about women, who is at ease in her body, who doesn't need to compete with other women, who thrives, who is radiant, who is productive by living in harmony with her moon cycle, with her menstrual cycle, respecting of the earth, of the seasons, is a very dangerous character in today's society, because she will not buy the last mascara, because she understands that the last mascara will really not be the solution of all of her troubles. And the relationship that we have with ourselves and the identity is built through the relationships that we have with our fathers as heterosexual women. And we develop that identity through the relationship that we have with father and with mother. So we model the behavior of the parent that we identify with, and then we long for the attention and the affection. And of course, there are a lot of psychological processes that are happening for women, which are very important actually, because they are essential to our the way that we build our self-esteem, the way that we build our self-identity and our self-view, and the way that we portray that view in the outside world. I could speak about this like for such a long time. That I'd like to wrap it up by saying that unfortunately, nobody really feels by default great about themselves. And this is a process. And I think that when we start maturing and taking responsibility for the way that we are feeling, understanding that it's not anybody's fault or anybody's responsibility but ours, to reparent. Our inner little girl. Like I have all sorts of aspects, and this is very normal. It's called parts work, and this is what I do with a lot of clients. So I have a really mean inner girl. I call her Arabella, and she is really inflicting a lot of pain and telling me, oh, look at that hair and look at that, and her intention is just to keep me safe. And when I go to her and I have a chat with her, and I come to her from this mothering energy and honoring her because she has space and she's trying to do her best, then she expresses herself differently, and she allows me to actually look in the mirror and be like, yeah, this is what I see in the mirror, but that may not be the reality of, or how I feel about what I see in the mirror may not be the reality. I choose how I want to view myself and how I want to feel about myself.
Which goes back to also the where you started when we spoke, and it's about the dependence, or taking back the power from depending on your partner, or we all love makeup. I mean, at the end of the day, it's beautiful and we use it and stuff, but I think there's a difference between using it just for beautification versus using it for dependence. That, as you said, if I look in the mirror, I need to see a certain image, or else then I have an issue connecting with myself and with others.
So again, it starts very early for women, very early in childhood. We are taught and we are conditioned to be pleasing, physically, emotionally, psychologically, and there is not a lot of space for. And again, I'm speaking from a privileged perspective, because different women in different parts of the world experience life very differently.
Yes.
And still there is this red thread of being brought up as women with the idea that we exist to please. And then in sexuality, that translates into I am there as the object of somebody else's pleasure. And what you mentioned is really capital, because the way that we keep people small and disconnected, and not really allowing them to have deep, devotional, strong, beautiful, expanded partnerships is by teaching them shame around their sexuality and around their pleasure. And this happens with both men and women, and there are just like different roles that are attributed through gender, and through upbringing, and it's really, really unfortunate, because I think that a lot of men don't understand that having a woman who takes pleasure in being at ease inside her body, who takes pleasure in intimacy, is really nurturing. And also it's very beneficial, because the brain secretes all these hormones that are feel good hormones, and also understanding that communication is really, really important between people. Like it's a tragical trauma response that in today's society everybody's trying to make it on their own and to be self-reliant and independent, and this is a trauma response. This is not how we are supposed to be. We are supposed to be in togetherness. We are supposed to be connected. We are supposed to be surrounded by a village and be celebrated and be seen and be admired, not vainly, but really be seen for who we truly are in all our facets, in all our complexity.
That's true. I started actually recently looking at it from, it's not about independence and it's not about dependence, but rather interdependence. And that for me became this concept of, you know, I am interdependent with my husband, with my son, with, you know, with my family and everything. And that's for me, from my perspective, I think it's a beautiful place to come from, because that means it's a two-way relationship. I give and I take. And it's not, you know, it's not a one way. And it's, as you said, it's not a place where you're feeling used, but a place where you're both utilizing and building up each other, I think.
And again, this is something that comes with the choice of changing the narrative, because women are taught that their needs are not important, and we prioritize other people's needs. So we are daughters, and then we become partners, then we become mothers, and our needs are really put on the, I don't know, 100th place, like really the back. And you cannot be really nurturing and nurture other people when your needs are not nurtured. And it's not from a space of self-centeredness or selfishness. It's just, you know, you need to first put the mask on your face.
That's true.
To have the other. And also I would like to speak to something I feel deeply for men too, because under the umbrella of patriarchy, everybody loses. So this oppressive system that teaches us that the patriarchal figure, which is paterfamilias, the male, dominant, and everybody's kind of like depending on him for the resources, is an oppressive system that puts women down and keeps women down. But in keeping women down, you are actually also creating a narrative that men have to obey, which is non-emotional, always having it together, putting on the strong figure, and you just create individuals who are really broken, and we are all broken, and that's really beautiful, because where the breakage points are, that's where the light enters, right? As
that's true. Yes.
The problem is that we break people without giving them the tools and the access to building themselves
up back again.
Again, right? And what you mentioned, you know, if you look at little boys when they are children, they love service, they love being of service, and we start breaking them, and we start keeping them small, and again, it's like a shared responsibility, because women have been deprived of their possibility of fulfilling their own needs, so then they expect their partners to fulfill their needs, and not only that, they expect their partners to pick up on their needs without their needing to communicate those needs.
Back to the communication that you were talking about.
Which is impossible. It's an impossible task. You set up people for failure. So I'm going back to boys who grow up to be men who can't really win with women, and nobody really wants to not win. So it's a shared responsibility. Also, women need to find their ways to explaining and expressing, hey, it feels really good when you open the door for me, or hey, I noticed that you did that. Because men also want to be celebrated, and the more they are celebrated, the more a healthy man, like not somebody who's in their toxic masculinity, will give more of that. Whereas a lot of women are thinking, no, I'm not going to build him up, because then he's going to go in the world and find somebody else, right? Which comes also from a lot of trauma, because also as women we have been, or like as feminine, we have been failed by the masculine and betrayed, and we have this like a collective consciousness, and of course there is fear about that. But that can always happen, like you can always lose your partner, not only because they're gonna leave for somebody else, they can also just die, for example. And then what are you gonna do instead of investing in having a fulfilling partnership where both of you grow together and help each other and support each other and celebrate each other? And like, I think it's something so beautiful to have somebody who sees the depth of you and celebrates that, and so many of us just yearn for that, to be seen, the little things that we do. I
love that. Okay, so to sum up, I would actually like to address one last thing with you, and that is, if we are to change the narrative about sexuality versus sensuality, how would you change the narrative? How would you redefine that?
Well, sensuality for me, it comes from the 5 senses. So we are all sensual. It's just that, again, there is so much shame around sensuality that when you go to a restaurant and you really enjoy the food, there is no space for you to be like, oh my God, I really love this food, and like smell the food and taste and feel it, right? Because people are gonna look at you and be like, oh my God. But that's sensuality,
Yes.
And sexuality again. So I think it just comes from there are a lot of negative associations with sexuality. And there is a lot of fear around sexuality because most of the population is not really educated around sexuality.
Yes.
So then whatever you don't address, whatever is taboo, whatever is invisible, is created in our consciousness as like this big scary thing. And everybody kind of keeps in the Pandora's box and never really wants to address, right?
Keeps tiptoeing around it.
But then again, we all want to breed children. Like you cannot segregate the one of the main reasons for us as humanity is to procreate. Yeah, many of us just feel the need to procreate. So then how you can focus on procreation without taking sexuality out of the question? So I think it's all about really healing the relationship that we have with sexuality and what we put in sexuality. There is so much shame and so much guilt. I was born Christian, and I remember the conditioning that I had around sexuality, and for the state, there is a big reason why they don't want people to be sexually empowered, right? Because it can be very difficult to handle people who no longer go for monogamous relationships. Then you lose all sorts of aspects of a functioning society. So I would start with really redefining for ourselves what we see in sexuality, and maybe feeling into that deep shame that we have. Embryos touch themselves. We have research about that in our mother's womb, because being in touch with your body and what brings pleasure by touching your body is a normal thing. So making something so normal and so natural, shaming people for something so normal and so natural, can only come with a huge cost, because a lot of people are now living from here up. And there is a lot of power actually inside the body, and pleasure inside the body unlocks a lot of power. And you can see it actually. You can see it in the way that people drive. And you can see people who are at ease and are having a fulfilling partnership on all planes, and people who don't.
Wow. Yeah, I think everything you do, say, and act, and how you act and interact with people says a lot about everything that needs to heal. I know this, I'm learning as as I'm doing the work on my self-development as well, and those where I'm supporting my clients. It starts going back again to what the first statement you said when we started. It starts with us, and it starts where we realize that I could take the power back of how I act, react, and interact with everyone around me and everything around me. in where I'm not happy or where I feel the frustration or the anger or everything else, as you said, even the simplest pleasures, then, let me look into that. Let me dive a bit deeper and get the support system that's required.
Yeah, and I would also like to name something. We have been conditioned to run from challenging emotions such as anger and resentment and sadness and grief and frustration. And they are just emotions. They are part of life. A normal psyche changes their emotional state every 8 seconds. Okay, so we go through like a palette of emotions, and that's normal. What is unhealthy to me is the way that anger is expressed. Yeah, anger is a very powerful force, just like sexual energy is a very powerful force if it's channeled into creation and not into destruction. And same with anger, so a lot of us really don't have the tools and don't know how to manage the challenging jealousy. We all experience jealousy, and jealousy can just be a path of inquiring, being curious. Why am I jealous of this person? What is the story that I have inside my mind? Maybe it's something that I actually crave for myself. I can see that this woman is just dancing freely as if nobody's looking, and I would love to have that freedom inside my body,
Yeah.
So it's just that understanding what is actually the root that is triggering. Why am I angry? What triggered my anger here? Maybe it's an opportunity for me to have an honest discussion with my husband, because it's been months that they are coming late and I don't feel that we have a connection, like just sitting for a cup of coffee or a cup of tea in the morning and having an honest discussion about what is going on in our lives, how are the kids, what we need to do, but instead of having that honest conversation and saying, hey, I miss you, I miss spending time with you. No, we just go like angry and and then we expect for them to come and like, hey, is something wrong? No, nothing is wrong. Passive aggressiveness.
Yes, whoa. I'm sure that is, I think we all pass through phases that go along with it. Yeah. But as you said, again, it bottles down to the communication. And I know, that is something that I'm very conscious of. It's communicating, and it's not allowing for things to build up. Because as you said, as it builds up, it turns into anger, and it turns into resentment, and it turns into so many other emotions that's not where it started. That's not where the story started, but it develops that way just because it hasn't been expressed and communicated right then and there, or in the next appropriate moment that could have gave that space. Anca, it's beautiful talking to you, and you've got a calming energy around you, which is reassuring. And I love that you are working on that. You are tackling these areas that, as you said, we're conditioned not to speak of, but yet they're vital. They're our everyday life. They're what makes us human, actually.
And you know what? I'm going to tell you actually, because just now it came to my mind. There was a moment in my life where I thought, why am I not experience life with awe? Why am I not waking up in the morning being like, yes, another day, and this is awesome, I'm alive, and like, this is magical, Why am I waking up to life and I'm like, oh, another day, and I have to go? And then I realized that there is a way actually to experience life like that. And that way is through choice, through conscious choice. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because the more you give space for these emotions, right? Like anger has its space, and anger expresses itself. You dance it out of the body. For example, this is how I deal with anger. Then there is so much space for awe and ecstasy and creation and creativity, And another aspect that I really want to mention is vulnerability, because again, like a lot of people just pass this around, but honestly, there is no way forth than through vulnerability. Yes, at the beginning it's gonna be excruciating for the ego to go and be like, this partnership of ours is really, really important for me. You are my person. I love our family life. And I really want to find a way for us to deepen our relationship. How can we do it together? Don't drift away. Don't distance yourself from us and from me. Because I want to find a way with you. And this is something that if so many couples were to find the capacity to say that, I think that we would have like a far less divorce rate. Just that willingness, let's do it together.
Well, I've been saying that vulnerability and authenticity are superpowers that are underused on so many levels. And I found personally that when I exposed my vulnerability and when I used it to express myself, I know that a lot of people connected with me a lot more, and I've had much deeper connections and relationships just because of that. We're all human, and we all have our moments, and we've all had our experiences in the moments where we thought, it's on me, this was, it wasn't the best time in my life, whatever it is. But I realized that if someone else, because you opened up, someone can say, yeah, me too, I've had this, I thought I was all alone. That is a superpower. It's just making sure that no one feels that disempowered in their own life because they're thinking that they're the only ones going through that experience. So for that, thank you. Thank you for sharing your energy and your wisdom with us. It has been an amazing discussion.
Thank you. I really appreciate being here, Hanan. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
everyone.
Well, I think Anca said it all. It's about vulnerability. It's about communication. It's about authenticity. And it's about definitely going back and connecting to your true self and how you want to show up in your life on a daily basis, whether with the woohoo, it's another day energy or syndrome, as I like to dub it. Your choice, your life. Make it happen one step at a time. Don't be too hard on yourself. Just make a small conscious choice on a daily basis. As always, wishing you love, abundance, and prosperity. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to the Empowered to Grow podcast. For further engagement with a tribe of empowered women, join my Facebook group, Empowered to Grow, or visit my website, www.hananelbasha.com. I'll catch you on the next episode. And until then, know that empowered you empowers others. Love, abundance, and prosperity to you all.